Welcome back. I'm Representative Patricia Morgan, and I have with me today as my guest Nick Gorham, a lawyer, a freedom fighter, patriot, and a former representative.
Thank you, yes.
Thanks for coming. Thanks again for coming. We were just talking about kind of the genesis of why the Ethics Commission's authority over the legislature was diminished.
Yes.
And basically, it came from he was the Senate president at the time,
Yes.
Bill Irons.
Yes.
Who was allegedly or accused of using his power to pass laws that benefited his insurance clients or himself.
Yes.
Or kind of threw a long way.
Yes.
He fought it. The Supreme Court agreed with him and stripped the Ethics Commission of its power to have any jurisdiction or authority over.
Yeah. Well, I think it's
Reps,
important to point out that the
senators.
Supreme Court relied on a certain clause in the Constitution that says that legislators can't be questioned for the way they vote. It's called the Speech and Debate Clause. So anything they say on the floor of the House or Senate and the way they vote cannot be questioned by anyone.
Well, and I kind of see that, quite
Unless
frankly.
it's criminal.
Yeah, okay,
That's
so-
different. But
So sometimes you get, I mean, if I got up and I voted some way because I thought it was the best thing for my constituents, I wouldn't want them to sue me for that. But it goes deeper than that, right? It only comes into play if we use our power
yes.
to make ourselves, to help ourselves financially or in
benefit
some other way,
ourselves.
to benefit ourselves.
Yes. And, there are some ethics transgressions that are also crimes, but not every ethics transgression is a crime. The Supreme Court never said that criminal activity was okay.
Right.
They simply said the transgression of the ethics laws is not something that the Ethics Commission can prosecute against legislators.
Okay, all right, so now we come up in the good government groups, have said, no, wait a minute, Supreme Court, we do want to have legislators in the General Assembly subject to this. By
Yes.
the way, there's still people at the town council level, the school committee level, they're still subject to this, correct?
Oh, yes, everyone else in the state, town council, zoning board members, anyone in government having any official capacity at all, even at the town level, the fire district level, you name it, they're subject and have always been subject to the ethics laws. It's only legislators, whom I believe were the motivating reason for the passage of the ethics laws,
Sure.
Who are ironically not subject to it by this Supreme Court decision. So we have the task now as a people in this state, if we want the legislators to become subject to the Ethics Commission, we have to persuade the legislature to make themselves subject to something that they probably don't want to be subject to, because they don't want anyone looking over their back a lot of the time. I think they feel like they have enough oversight by having elections every 2 years. But the fact is, everyone else is subject to the ethics laws.
Everybody else is subject to
Why
it.
not the General Assembly?
Sure, and it should be just part of our conduct. If really having somebody look over our shoulder shouldn't scare anybody if they're serving.
Right. If you're doing a good job,
And you're doing it the right way for
Yeah.
other people's benefit, not your
Yeah.
own, you're fine.
I also think that just the fact that you are subject to the ethics laws. When I was in the General Assembly for 10 years, every one of the 10 years I was there, the Ethics Commission had authority over legislators, because I left before the Supreme Court came out with this
Right.
decision. And I think it just makes you think about things a little more when you undertake to do something. Gee, am I complying with every single thing that I'm supposed to comply with? Am I doing anything that the Ethics Commission, not just my constituents, but that the Ethics Commission might think that isn't appropriate? I don't think it...
And it's fairly, not routine, but we do have legislators who get up from time to time and say, I have a relationship, here, I'm
Right.
going to recuse myself from this vote.
Right.
So that they don't have that, they don't have the problem.
Well, to me, it's really just a fairness argument. Everyone else in the state who's in any public office, including the governor and the general officers, Secretary of State, Attorney General, Treasurer, they're subject to the ethics laws, just like all town council members, zoning board members. It's only the General Assembly. It's not fair. You know,
Well,
that's
it's not
the most basic reason, I think, that this amendment needs to be made. It's just not fair.
And they do, the Ethics Commission actually does a training every year to remind people of how far they can go, what they shouldn't be doing, what it's okay to do. That actually, like you say, it's just that extra reminder. Listen, if a piece of legislation comes before you and you realize that this might affect you, your clients, anything like that, step back from it,
Right.
right? Don't get involved with it.
Keeps you thinking. There's nothing wrong with making sure that legislators keep thinking about the things they're doing when they're up there, even in the context of ethics. I don't see the harm in that.
No, there is no harm in it.
So-
It worked before. The
Yeah.
funny thing is, it really did work before.
Right.
Why wouldn't it continue to work?
I think it would continue.
Yeah, I think
mean,
it would
you
too.
know, Yeah.
But so there have been some hearings, and you went to some of them.
I went to one the other night and testified on one of the proposals, actually two of the proposals that have been made to restore Ethics Commission power over General Assembly members. I testified before the Judiciary Committee just the other night. It was the first time I've been back to testify in the House since I left.
Yeah, been a
So-
while.
Well, there was something that I saw that I really didn't like in this this so-called ethics law that that the Speaker put forward, Speaker Mattiello, and that is the blackout period.
Okay, explain the blackout period for folks.
Well, the blackout period is in the constitutional amendment that Speaker Mattiello has proposed to be placed on the ballot to be considered and voted upon by the electorate. That's us, the voters of Rhode Island.
Yeah, this will go on a ballot so that
Yes.
we get to vote.
Speaker Mattiello's proposal restores Ethics Commission authority over General Assembly members with one major loophole, and that is the blackout period. The blackout period says nobody can file an ethics complaint or even give information to the Ethics Commission for it to prosecute against a legislator or anybody from the time you file to run for office until the election. And my point is, what more time is more important to raise the profile of ethics than the time when we, the voters, are considering whether to elect someone? Now, they say there's an avalanche of frivolous complaints during that period. The data doesn't support that. There are more complaints during that period, but that's because people are focusing more on what their legislators do, typically, when there is an election. So
All right.
the blackout period is just a terrible idea.
Okay, and we're going to stop it with that definitive statement, and we'll be right back.